This is Dumbed Down Life number 36.
And that was DJ Schmolli with Smells Like Bleeding Love, which Darren and Doug seem to think sounds absolutely disgusting. Hi guys.
Yeah, it doesn't sound like a particularly nice title.
So how are we all?
Fantastic, thank you very much. And yourself?
Yeah, I'm alright, thank you. How are you, Darren?
I'm not too bad.
Good. Doug, you've got some sort of setup thing you want to do for your topic, haven't you?
Yeah, absolutely, chap. Just before we all get started with everyone else's, I want you three guys to spend the rest of the show, until we get to the end of it in my bit, I want you to think of 3 albums that you believe should be in everybody's music collection. They can be any artist, any genre, it doesn't matter. Just 3 albums that you think everybody absolutely should have in a good record collection. It doesn't even have to be an artist or an album that you like, just one that you think is important to music in general. And have a think about that through the show, and we'll come back to it at the end.
Ooh, sounds interesting.
I'm struggling already. Thanks for that one, Doug.
I've actually got my
brain
3.
Working.
I've got my 3 right away, actually. As soon as he said it, I knew what 3 I'd be picking.
Right, okay. Now then, as you're probably aware, I've been away for the past few weeks and just rejoined for the last recording that we did on Monday, which was a late one from the week before. And while I was away, I didn't have internet connection. But when I got to the airport to come back here, I had internet connection there. I downloaded the last 2 Dumb Down Live shows and listened to them. And this is what's kind of inspired me for this topic. Now, I'm not going to say bad language, because it's not bad, it's just... what's another word for swearing? Swearing, there you go. Swearing in the... Swearing in this recording has become a bit of a joke, bit of a topic, and let's see who's going to say the first swear word to make it so that we can't have to put the adult tag on the recording. Now, I did notice that the show that we had with Ben was full of adult language, and it kind of got me to thinking as to what makes certain parts of language offensive, whether it is the words that we're using or whether it's the way that they're used, and what do you find, I'm asking of course Lance and Doug here, what do you find offensive and what do you really think shouldn't be used? And this should give us the opportunity to put all kinds of tags on our podcast.
I think with me, it's definitely the company you're in at the time. When you're working in a factory, there's swearing and sort of profanity all the time, and it's sort of acceptable. But if you're out in polite society or you're around at a party or something like that, maybe not so acceptable.
Yeah, I mean, I always find swearing interesting. I mean, my father always grew up. My father never swore. I think once he called me a lanky streak of piss. Thank you very much. I win the award. I think he called me a lanky streak of piss. And my father never swore, and my father was of the firm belief that if you needed to swear, you didn't have a good grasp of the English language. Now, for me personally, I've always had a bit of an obsession with language and the use of language. I find it fascinating. And I actually disagree with him completely. I think swearing's a wonderful thing because I think it can add a real percussive hit to whatever it is you're saying. But as for what words are and aren't swear words, I mean, take a word like bastard. Bastard is considered a swear word. And yet, if something is bastardized, it's perfectly acceptable to say so, and you're not swearing to say that, for example, the English language itself is the most bastardized language there. But if you were to say that the English language is a bastard, you'd be swearing.
Yeah, I don't think...
Well, this is one of the things that I realised. One of the things that I realised while I was out in the States is being around outer London. Cara, unfortunately, sees swearing as a integral part of the English language and doesn't realise how often she is using profane words. Going out to the States, to this community which has got no more than 2,000 people in this particular area, they're still fairly straight, a lot of them being very church-going people, and even saying heck or hell is considered to be, a bit harsh. They're all like a bunch of Ned Flanders. But like you said, it depends on the people that you're with. I was brought up with swearing wasn't really something that anybody did. Very close sort of family environment. But even being brought up in South London, friends weren't really big swearers. It wasn't until probably wasn't until my mid-20s that I got involved with swearing at all, to be honest, and that was because I was doing customer support. It would be a case of hanging up the phone and saying that customer was a C word. See, I can't even do it now.
It's interesting you talk about being over here, Darren. I completely agree with you. I find it odd the way network television is over here. For example, in network television, somebody can say God and somebody can say damn. but they can't say "God damn." They'll actually edit it if they put the two words together, and I just find that so peculiar.
The editing, especially in the States, I found completely ridiculous. We were listening to Nickelback, and they were saying it was the song "Rockstar," and every mention of the word drugs was blanked out, and it just wrong. I think we're going a little bit more. We're blanking out more now than we used to. I mean, it was just ridiculous, and it ruined some of the songs. If they don't like the contents of the songs, then just don't play it. But some of these radio editions were real bastardizations.
I think it's kind of strange because, like you say, that song in particular, they bleep out the word drugs. Yet you watch Jonathan Ross at 10 o'clock, and he's swearing very, very often during the show. And when he has American guests on, they sort of... You can see that they're a bit sort of taken aback by the fact that he's swearing on TV. And when they're saying that they're sort of giving an anecdote, so as an example, and they sort of say, "Oh, am I allowed to say wanker?" And for us, wanker is a swear word, but it's not one of the more offensive swear words. There's a lot more offensive swear words for an Englishman to hear. Wanker is not really that offensive.
Absolutely. I mean, over here it's interesting because they use the term pissed off all the time, and they use it during regular daytime television when, long before any kind of watershed. And yet in the UK, pissed off, although it's not one of the harsher swear words, it nonetheless is considered swearing. Now, interestingly enough, in the room, Leonie's just said she doesn't like the C word, and of course we're not talking about cancer. And she says she doesn't like the C word, and quite honestly, a lot of women don't. Personally, I have no objection to it at all. I think it's a wonderfully percussive and offensive word, which is maybe why men like it and women don't. But nonetheless, you take that word, you go back 100 years, and the word was in common use, and it wasn't a particularly offensive word. It was a word that was used regularly in, not general conversation, of course, but within, you wouldn't be offending somebody terribly if you used it. But nowadays, of course, you work in an office or something like that, and you use the C word to somebody, you're likely to find yourself back on the dole.
Absolutely, yeah.
It's interesting that that particular word is referred to as the C word. We've got no problems with using the F words and the SH words on the podcast, but when it comes to that word, it's still the C word. It's almost as if there are different levels of profanity and acceptability.
Well, I'd use it, except for the fact that Leonie's the only female we get who comes and listens to the show, and I really don't want to offend her so much that she never comes back.
Did we use it last week?
I think we did, didn't we? I use it quite happily.
I'm fairly sure we used it last week. Ben might have done, actually, right at the end.
I thought the anecdote about the guy towing the truck at 3 o'clock in the morning, I think that involved the C word.
It certainly did when it happened, I can assure you.
No, I just have to say about that particular anecdote, since I wasn't here to give feedback at the time, you did make him sound like a terribly British kind of a person. He seemed to be saying a lot of British things, but I take it he had a nice American accent and responses to it as well.
Yeah, pretty much. I mean, he was redneck and probably had the brain cells of a goat.
Anything more come of that?
No, although actually, funnily enough, yes, it did. I don't know why I said no. It did, actually. Last weekend, Friday night, about 11 o'clock, something like that, we heard the truck outside again. It wasn't directly outside us this time. It was a little further down. We glanced out the window, and there's a Denali, which is it's a kind of SUV, and it's backed up onto the curb. You've got the truck up against the front of it, and this big black guy arguing with the tow truck guys, and about 10 minutes later the police turned up. So it was kind of like being in the ghetto, really. It was rather rough and unpleasant, and eventually the tow truck guys left. They didn't get to take the truck away. So, yeah.
Was it the same tow truck?
It's still going. Yes, it was the same tow truck. I don't think it was the same guy that was driving it when I argued with him, but it was the same tow truck, the same company.
They're not having a lot of luck, are they?
Well, neither should they. Bastards. Fuckers. No. Wankers.
And that's kind of where we ended up last week, wasn't it?
like nobody else. Stood by the microphone, but not too close. Filled up that stage all by herself. Outside they were towing cars, inside they were drinking. They'd all brought their scars, gonna bleed their way to fame. She wore a cheap dress, no damsel in distress. She opened her mouth and I lost track of my name. Whoa, Sister Rosa, sing that sweet and high. Pull me into your moon river as you go sailing by. Well, the devil sat next to me and he had a martini in each hand. He was buying, but I just don't drink gin. Poured his honey words out like water in the desert. It's been way too long since I had a swim. He said, son, I don't see no rain. Let go of your good thing. Settle that bill with your waitress of sin. Don't know whether to run or hide or take a ride. I don't see no one by her side. When that moon river came rolling, I jumped my body in. Whoa, Sister Rosa, sing that sweet and high. Pull me into your moon river as you go sailing by, sailing by. She said,
I don't know the words.
That's all right. And she said,
I can't carry a tune.
Don't get uptight. And she closed her eyes and we were all out of sight. She sang like a choir of angels all through the night. Oh, Rosa, keep on singing. Ooh, yeah. 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 Whoa, Sister Rosa, sing that sweet and high. Pull me into your moon river. You go sailing by, sailing by. It was last call for alcohol, and all the model citizens had gone home. And I was left with the devil, and man, he was sauced. So we took a walk around the block. I got my soul back out of hock, and it left in a cloud of brimstone and exhaust. And I don't know whether I won or if I lost. Whoa, Sister Rosa, sing that sweet and high. Pull me into your moon river as you go sailing by, sailing by, sailing by. My Sister Rosa.
Literal word, isn't it? Bastard is just a child without a legitimate father.
It seems odd that the chat room doesn't seem to be censoring out the word bastard. So back onto our previous conversation, it would seem that bastard isn't a swear word. There you go. That was Kevin, Merrit and Sister Rosa.
I'm sorry.
That's all right, Darren. I forgot to tell you that the music had finished. So everybody heard the last part of your conversation, but not the first part of your conversation. Never mind. Perhaps we ought to explain that we're trying out a different piece of software for doing the voice conversation between the three presenters. So we're having to get used to it a little bit, and we didn't there, really.
We. Don't you love the way Lance says we?
Oh, I'm sorry, yeah, okay, it was me, I'll admit it. Right, couple of stories that I saw in various websites during the week made me think of Big Brother. Not the Big Brother TV programme, but the Big Brother state. Now, there's in Essex, the Essex police have now got an airborne speed camera. It's a helicopter with the sensors, the infrared sensors, and number plate recognition, and loudspeakers, believe it or not, and they fly up and down the motorways and track speeding cars and shout at them. So you now don't only have to watch out for the fixed speed cameras on the roads, you now have to look in the sky for a big helicopter that's filming you. So with that, with the CCTV and the fact that the government wants a national ID card with all of your biometric data kept on it, we are heading towards this Big Brother state, the 1984 Big Brother is watching you kind of thing. But the other story that I saw, which makes me think that this is a really crap idea, is the fact that hold on while I just change windows. The fact that somebody sold a PC laptop on eBay, which contained high street bank information for 1 million customers. Which it contained account numbers, phone numbers, mothers' maiden names, and the signatures of 1 million customers. So we've got a government that wants a national ID card so they can keep all your data on a database somewhere and use it for whatever uses they want to use it. You've got CCTV cameras watching you all the time. You've got, you can even go as far down as Google Street View and Google Maps that we've talked about on quite a few occasions that are filming you, and you've got now these helicopters in the air that are filming you, and yet they just cannot seem to hold on to the data that they collect and keep it secure, because this is not the first time it's happened. There's been,
that wasn't a government thing, though, was it?
Well, no, that wasn't a government thing, but you can bet your bottom dollar that any information that the government keep will be spread around to other people for their own uses. I don't believe for 1 second that any information the government store on you will not be made available to the likes of insurance companies, health companies, banks, and that kind of thing. I just do not think that it'll be kept separate, because they're all in bed together.
Yeah, I've been involved with the security side of data for quite a long time, and the frustrating thing is, no matter how secure a database, no matter how secure your links, the information at some point or another is going to end up on somebody's terminal, on somebody's computer, where they can print it off in plain print, stick it into their bag, and then leave it on the train. So there's no way of data being 100% secure for all time. I would have hoped that information such as mother's maiden name and passcodes would have been encrypted in any database. So the fact that it's on this laptop in some unencrypted format means that somebody has consciously exported it from the secure database onto a laptop which then anybody could read. Don't know, bit stupid that sounds to it.
You have a valid point, Darren. I mean, it doesn't matter what system you're looking at, be it a computer system or any other kind of anything. There's no such thing as a secure system.
So
really, isn't it? It's a complete illusion.
So isn't it more worrying because of that the thing like the national ID card is more than likely going to happen? Doesn't that really scare the hell out of you?
But how worried are you, Lance, that everybody who drives a car has got this little bit of card with their name and address and the colour of their eyes and their... it's no different to a driving licence, I don't think.
Exactly what I was just going to say, Darren. I completely agree with you on that. Right, I mean, and your information, whether it's on a national ID card or anything, is already there. Every company you ever deal with, everything you ever deal with, every employer you ever deal with, your details are already on record. So one more company or, organisation that has your details on record is not going to make any real difference.
I guess not. I don't really have a comeback for that, to be honest.
Talking about the helicopter with the speed cameras on, something always got me about speed checks and stuff like that is you drive for 7 miles and there's a policeman behind you and then he pulls you over and he says, so do you realise for the last 7 miles you've been doing 45 mile an hour in a 30 zone? I always think about that and think, well, you've been behind me for the last 7 miles, so you've also been doing it as well.
But he's trained to do it.
He's what?
He's driving a car that's he's trained to drive safe at high speeds, and his car's probably a downside better than the ones that we're driving.
I tell you what, you say that about trading. I remember getting in an argument with a copper one time because I was this was when I was back in England, and I was actually coming down the Hayway in Risdon, which Lance will probably know. I shouldn't think anybody else does. But there were always cars parked on the right-hand side outside the school, and I'm coming down there, and obviously clearly left-hand side of the road is clear, right-hand side has cars parked on it, therefore I have the right of way. And a copper came up there, no twos and blues on or anything, just in his regular car, not doing anything particularly urgent, and decided that he'd be a copper and try and be a bully and try and force his way through. So me being me, of course, being a bit of an arse as I am, I decided not to let him. And I just carried on the way because I had the right of way. And it came to the point where as we came past each other, we both had to slow right the way down, which gave a couple of seconds for us both to give each other the evil eye. So, of course, being a copper, the bastard turned around and pulled me. As he couldn't get me on anything because I was completely legal, but it clearly pissed him off that I wouldn't allow him the right of way when he didn't have the right of way. And I told him that as well. I said, well, you didn't have the right of way, I did. And he said, that's not the point, sir. Your driving was dangerous. I'm like, no, it fucking wasn't.
Yours was.
I've been pulled over by the police a couple of times, but my favourite one was going along a dual carriageway with a police car behind me. I was doing about 68, 69 miles an hour, and he kept following me. Suddenly the blue lights come on, and I thought, okay, he wants me to get out of his way. So I accelerated to overtake a car that was on my inside, pulled into the middle lane, and the police car shot past me, pulled in and pulled me over. And he says, you do realise that you were doing 75 miles an hour? And I said, well, only the last little bit when you turned your lights on, because I thought you wanted me to get out of the way. I would have got away with it if the handbrake hadn't failed on the car and the car rolled back and smashed the front of the police car.
I've been pulled over a few times. But the worst one, and I'll hold my hands up, yep, absolutely caught me red-handed, was when I was at college, coming back from college. I used to go to college in Corby, and there was a dual carriageway, and there was a gang of us. Most of them lived in Kettering, so we all sort of drove back at the same time. And lovely hot day, and we'd spent the entire afternoon walking around empty classrooms, stealing those metal square waste paper bins, which we proceeded to fill up with water balloons. And then as we were driving down the dual carriageway on the way home, we were chucking water balloons at each other until this police car came up and pulled us over. Luckily, he was obviously in some sort of a good mood because he didn't do anything other than give us one hell of a bollocking. But he didn't do us for dangerous driving or anything like that, which I was really expecting.
Do you remember, Lance, this was many, many years ago. I think it may have actually been in your old blue Escort. But there was you, Gary, Lee, and myself, and I think that was it. Lee and Gary were sat out of the back windows with their hands on the roof, and we were driving down the road, and there was a car behind, and being young and stupid as they were all waving and giggling and laughing, and, ooh, this is so funny, until the blue lights came on the car and we got pulled over.
Can I stop you there? It wasn't my car, it was in Lee's Escort, and it was me and Mark Dennis. Sitting on top of...
Oh, was it? Okay.
Yeah. We'd been out...
Well, clearly your memory's better than mine.
Well, yeah, because it was me that got done. Yeah, we were just coming down Bell Hill in Findon and dropping Gary off or something, I can't remember. And there was Mark Dennis and I sitting with the backsides on the open rear windows having a conversation across the roof. And this car came over the top of the hill, quite a long way behind us, flashing its lights at us. So we looked round and waved at them, because we thought it was just some car. And then these blue lights came on and we're like, oh, shit. And all Lee could say was, act really, really drunk. Which wasn't difficult, because we were really, really drunk.
Of course, because that makes everything better. I'm sorry, officer, I was drunk.
Yeah, we got away with it. Lee again got a bollocking, and said maybe you ought to reconsider who your friends are. Yeah, I do remember that vividly, Doug.
what's not right or wrong. It's only doses for your foolish pride. Yeah. And if you ask why, I will tell you too. Look at me, 'cause I won't go. Just tell me, 'cause I want to know. Yeah, I'm wasting time, letting years go by. Need you here by my side. Won't you close your eyes a while? 'Cause I know so tired, yes we all. Feels like we're slipping away. Look at me, 'cause I won't go. Just tell me, 'cause I want to know. Wasting my time, I don't know that I've forgotten. Is it wrong to lay it on the line? Well, it's high time, made up your mind, yeah, yeah. That I'm hanging on, I don't know that I've forgotten. Is it wrong to lay it on the line? Well, it's high time, made up your mind, yeah, yeah.
Wiser time there with High Time Mind. Okay, now moving back on to what we were talking about at the beginning of the show. 3 albums that you think should be in everybody's music collection. Now, the only reason I bring this up is because it was a discussion I got into the other day, and I think that there are certain albums out there that, without question, are absolute classics that truly helped shape and were important to music, both old and modern. So, what do you think? What are your 3 albums that everybody should have in their collection?
Okay, well, my first one would be Meatloaf, Bat Out of Hell.
Okay, why?
It's one of my favourite albums, if not my favourite album. I don't know whether it'd be sort of massively important to music, but I just think it is a damn good album, almost a perfect album.
Well, I mean, I'd agree with you, and I have to say, I mean, you know, its importance to music, I think it was important to music, because I think it brought, I mean, obviously you've got that whole Jim Steinman, Meatloaf mixing of operatics and, you know, this gothic operatic rock theatre, almost. Now, of course, Alice Cooper had been doing that as well, but not quite in the same way that Jim Steinman and Meatloaf have, so I agree with you on it being an important album. I think it really was.
Thank you. What would one of yours be, Darren?
Well, knowing what a great fan of the Fab Four you are, Doug, the first album I would recommend everybody has is Sgt. Pepper.
Now, you know what, Darren, you say that, and I'm absolutely loath to admit it, but that is a very important album. I think it really is a crucial album. I hate the Beatles. I would never own it. I'd rather pull my face off with a cat's ass, quite frankly, but I agree. It's a crucial album. It is a classic.
It's classic. It's very different styles of music, although still all by the same band, obviously. It sort of tells a story, and to get it in its original vinyl form, the whole jacket with the lyrics in it and the different... It's a multimedia experience before multimedia was a word that we even had in our vocabulary. So yeah, that was definitely one that I'm glad that I've got.
That was one of mine as well, to be fair.
Fair enough. Well, that's good then. I mean, that perhaps proves that, it really is up there. And I mean, even, as I've said, even though I hate the Beatles, I do agree. Clearly that's one that everybody should own, which is a bit of a hypocrisy because there's no way I'd own it. Now, I mean, I have to say, my three are quite easy. I can list them straight off for you. 3 albums I think everybody should own a copy of are the Black Album by Metallica, or as it's properly called, Metallica, Dark Side of the Moon by Pink Floyd, and Rumours by Fleetwood Mac. And I think those are 3 of the greatest albums ever written, and I think that everybody should have a copy.
Now, the funny thing is, Metallica, the Black Album, was my third one, and if we'd have gone to 4, then Dark Side of the Moon would have been in there as well. I was really torn between Dark Side of the Moon and Sgt. Pepper.
It's difficult, isn't it? I mean, this was the thing. I did think about making it 5 albums, but I thought, no, let's make it difficult. Let's make them think. Because this is dumbed down life. It's a very intellectual show, and I like us all to think. So 3 albums it was.
Yeah, I think I went with Sgt. Pepper over Pink Floyd because I do think Sgt. Pepper was probably a more important album globally.
I mean, now, personally, I disagree with that. I think both important albums, but, I mean, obviously, I think Dark Side of the Moon is a better album. That goes without saying. But I also think it's a more influential album as well, in terms of modern rock music and modern rock sound.
See, for my second one, I've actually got Queen, A Kind of Magic, because of its tie-in with the film from Highlander. I enjoyed both the film and the music of Queen, and have sung myself hoarse while listening to that in the car many a time. And for my third one, The Venga Boys Are Coming. No, just kidding.
What's that? It's important because of an example of how not to make an important album.
My third one is actually Jean-Michel Jarre and Oxygen. I heard a lot of Jean-Michel Jarre music long before I even knew who he was, because he used to do a lot of, or his music was used for a lot of introductions to programs like that we were watching at the time, like Where There's Life and some school programs that we used to listen to. So when I sort of found out that this guy actually was a recorded artist rather than just being incidental music, you get more interested into it. And also the concerts that then sort of ensued in the 80s and 90s. Just listening to be honest, any of Jean-Michel Jarre's albums always takes me back to that time, but Oxygen was the first one.
See, again, with things like Jean-Michel Jarre, for example, you can argue that the likes of him and Mike Oldfield were the precursor to today's sort of techno and trance music. The sort
Absolutely.
And also the light shows. Now, I know Pink Floyd were very instrumental in the development of big stadium type light shows and that kind of thing. But with Jean-Michel Jarre, with the whole laser thing, you look at the Brit Awards or the MTV Music Awards or anything like that, possibly even Glastonbury, I've never been. They've all got these big lasers coming out into the audience and giving on a big show. Well, Jean-Michel Jarre was the guy that started all of that. Now, I know that's not necessarily part of an album, but as an artist, I'm not his greatest fan, but I do think he's certainly important and has definitely influenced a whole load of people.
Well, I mean, interestingly enough, you talk about Floyd and the light shows and stuff. Of course, you have to remember back in the old days when they first started and they were playing in the UFO Club in London, places like that, they were already doing huge light shows in this small, this small club. And you talk about techno and stuff like that and the influence of Jean-Michel Jarre and people like that. You listen to Dark Side of the Moon, of course, and you have whole sections that use sampling techniques long before there were ever samplers. Now, these guys actually did this like it was, like they were an orchestra playing, and they did this with tape loops and echo effects and all sorts of stuff. So they were doing things like sampling and stuff like that long before the modern people were. And just going back to Rumours, and the reason I picked Rumours is because I think Rumours is one of the purest emotional albums that's ever been released. I mean, during the recording of the album, of course, the whole band were going through their various relationship issues because they were all kind of banging one another in various relationships with each other, and that's what the whole album is about. And I think on a purely emotional level, it's one of the most honest albums that's ever been released. And, of course, you listen to later singers, particularly, I think, female singer-songwriters, and there's no doubt at all that albums like Rumours had a massive, massive influence on them. Particularly, with somebody's voice like, oh, good Lord, I can't think of her name, Stevie Nicks, who just has that wonderful voice and that wonderful emotional quality to her voice. And there's so many of the modern female singer-songwriters, and you can see exactly where they've drawn their. So from that point, I think that Rumours is just, I mean, for me, I think it would almost be more important than albums like Dark Side and...
And what, Doug? Sorry, you broke up there.
I'm sorry, I said I think it would almost come above albums like the Black Album and Dark Side of the Moon, just more for its emotional rawness, its pureness,
Yeah, I can see
there's
that.
also an honourable mention here for an album which Leone mentioned, which has had a profound influence on my life, Max Bygraves and Sing Along on Maximus. Can't forget that.
Absolutely. How can we miss that one?
Do you know what? My dad actually had that on an 8-track. I'm a pink toothbrush, you're a blue toothbrush. And what's the other one? Gilly Gilly Ossenfether Katzenella Bogen by the Sea.
Yeah, he was talking about Bluetooth before anybody knew what it was about.
Yeah, I was just going to say, I mean, it's interesting. Obviously, we've limited ourselves to 3, but there are other albums out there that, of course, without question, are just classic albums. Albums like Thriller by Michael Jackson or some of the early Madonna albums and stuff like that. But, of course, we're limited to 3. It's a personal choice, and they seem to be our 9 albums that every election. So I want everybody to go out and buy them.
It wasn't quite 9 there because we doubled up, didn't we?
Oh yeah, that's right. Actually, so what there were, I think 7, because I think 2 of them we doubled up on. So
yeah, we
that is right, which it rarely is.
Yeah. Again, Michael Jackson Thriller was one that I was torn with. Very close to putting it in. I think I could have got 5, and Thriller would have been in it, and so would Dark Side. That would have been my 5.
And actually, I mean, this is one that our listeners can jump in on here. It'd be really great to hear from you. If you want to drop us an email or give us a call or whatever, and let us know what you think your 3 albums that you think everybody should have in their album collection.
Yeah, that'd be really cool. And if you do want to phone us, you can call us on 07092 274 759, and our email address, Darren, is.
The email address is ddl.podshow@googlemail.com, and the website, Doug, is
of course www.dumbeddownlife.com.
And you can follow us on Twitter. Our username is dumbeddownlife.
Can they? Because I know last week you said that Twitter was pretty much, taking a nosedive. Is that still going? Can they still use it? Is it still effective for them?
Okay, I'll go into this very, very quickly, which I know Doug won't believe that I'm capable of doing. The problem with Twitter is that they've failed to do a deal with the UK phone providers, so they're no longer able to subsidise the sending out of texts. How Twitter normally works is you send a text to Twitter, and then that sort of repeats it out to all the people that are on your friends list. Obviously, they have to pay for that facility to send out. If you've got 300 people on your list, they have to pay for 300 text messages. They've done deals with most of the rest of the Europe and the Americas, where they pay a vastly reduced rate for doing so. But they've not managed to secure a deal with the UK, so they've stopped doing it, which for me has kind of removed the whole point of Twitter. For me, Twitter was a mobile blogging thing. You used it on your mobile phone, you got responses on your mobile phone, and it was like blogging, microblogging for your mobile phone. And now you're not allowed to do that, which means it's another website you have to go and check.
Okay, so getting back to the original short question, can our users still use it?
Oh, they can still use it, yeah. It's not dead in that kind of way. It's just more difficult to... if we now sent a text message out saying Dumb Down Life is being recorded at 9 o'clock, they wouldn't get that on their mobile phone anymore. So they'd have to physically...
If they're in the UK.
If they're in the UK, of course, yeah. They would have to physically go onto the web, check their Twitter feed to see if we've sent a Twitter, which kind of removes the whole point of doing it. But I guess we still will continue to do it because I think we have listeners that are not UK based.
Well, excellent. Thanks for that lovely, succinct explanation there, Lance.
Oh, come on. It was more succinct than normal. Right. Are we done, people?
Yeah, I think that's about it, guys, for this week.
Okay, well, thank you very much for listening. And if you didn't join us in the chat room, you can. Go to www.dumbdownlife.com/chat, where you can listen to us broadcasting live and join in the fun in the chat room. Right, we shall see you all next week.
Goodbye.